We'll talk to them.
So that's a bad idea.
A while ago. He is still not very accessible.
Yeah, so
But even so he would remember.
Can we see his camera?
And he would take.
Do you have your camera on, Merv?
So this is fun for us.
Yeah, go to the dash thing now.
So where do you think change happens?
So stepping in from New Jersey. He's a really, really good friend of Mervin's. In fact, he's how I knew that Mervin was gone. He started.
So what I could probably do in the meantime is just chit chat a little bit and perhaps just share some thoughts.
Okay.
One of the things that sort of been at the forefront of my mind over the last point, the idea of legacy is something that we should consider as a living force, something that we will move, something that we will take, move forward, mold, create in our own image, and pass it on to others. So I think that's important. I think understanding perhaps some of the trajectories that Mervin took in his life gives me a bit of confidence in articulating that legacy in that sense. But one of the more important things that occurred to me is the need for us to identify critical questions in our own lives. So one of the things that Mervin did do very well as an individual was redefine himself. He understood the importance of recognizing the context in which he existed. So whether that was the physical dimension or the people that surrounded him, he understood the importance of the impact that the environment or the context had, and what he needed to do in order to not just survive, but thrive in that environment. So there's some questions that each of us need to ask, and those questions really focus on how do we interpret the environment? How do we react? How do we move from one set of ideas to a new set of ideas? Because as I said, that was one of the most powerful things that he exhibited. He could fit in just about any environment, talk to anybody. And that's because he understood the context, he understood what was around him, and he understood the need to make change. And he did that seamlessly. So I think with us gathering as we go forward with the overarching idea of legacy, that's a pinpoint, that's a specific point that I think we ought to look at. How do we interpret our own context? How do we motivate others? How do we move from where we are? How do we fit in seamlessly? But if we juxtapose that with another really important quality Mervin had was he moved against the grain. So there's a great level of complexity here. Here's an individual who can fit into an environment, understood the need for change, but he was an agitator. He didn't conform in no way, shape, or form. Did Mervin conform to anything. But it wasn't abrasive. It was almost seductive. He invited you into a space and he was able to command a presence. So again, with the overarching idea of legacy, how do we interpret that as individuals? I mean, we're not seeking to be Mervin, but what we learn and how we interpret it and how we perceive it are very important aspects of our celebration of a remarkable human being. So in the last year, like I said, that's kind of some of the ideas that sort of been part of my struggle to come to terms with the loss of a good friend and a very able educator and artist. So as we spend a little bit of time and chit chat and eat and think and struggle and wonder, I'd invite everyone on their own level certainly on their own terms, to reflect on some of those ideas. I was trying to find this document that I had ready for you guys, and for the life of me, I can't find it now.
Oh, that was so good.
Yeah, what I was trying to do is to create, or what I have been doing is to create a book, and I wanted to show you the artwork that I created for Mervin.
Okay, but we can't see your camera right now.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I put the camera just so I can find the image because it's rather loud.
Okay.
But I don't have the time. So I'm gonna search for it some more. I'll put my camera back on in a second.
Okay.
I didn't want take up too much time here just sitting. So I'll go ahead and look for it, and then as soon as I find it, I'll come back.
All right, thank you, Rohan.
Yeah, thanks so much.
Lots of wonderful food for thought there. Yeah. And it's interesting too because in Sonia's tribute, she always talks about, what was it that was in Mervin that allowed him to be able to do that, That kind of resilience that he had. He was always trying to share it with other people.
Pretty brave too.
He's very, very brave. And, but he always thought that everyone has this capacity within them. It's about unleashing it. It's about mobilizing it. When he started his life, he didn't know he had that capacity. It was something that he had to develop and find in himself, right? So how does each of us find that within ourselves? So that was what he was all about, trying to unlock that potential in each of us.
And what Rowan was saying about him not being abrasive, just making you feel comfortable, no matter who you were and what your context was.
Yeah.
It's so powerful because it makes you comfortable enough with him to be yourself.
Yes, yeah, that is absolutely what Mervin is all about. That sense of meeting you, where you're at. I remember one of the first things I heard him say. I met him at this conference at MIT. That was the first time I met him.
Was just to kind of remember what's happening here is people are calling me from different parts of the world to say hello and then we're trying to promote the event to other people and also to share some of his.
Mervin Jarman has turned this 240-litre wheelie bin into a multimedia playground.
The High Street Lab is a social engagement media production suite.
The lab was put through its paces in Broken Hill's town centre today. Mr Jarman says the lab was originally designed to help engage young people and develop their skills and purpose in life.
It's to re-engage those that have dropped out of school, who have fallen through the cracks, who have been written off. You notice the metaphor, it's in a garbage bin. It's the people who have been described in their lives as garbage, like I was. And here I am today.
Mr Jarman says the lab is a full self-contained multimedia broadcast unit, including the capability to broadcast localised television, radio and internet services.
The lab has a 3G modem hooked up to it, so we can get internet wherever we're at. We broadcast internet radio through Nicecast software. We also have built-in transmitters, FM transmitters, so we can broadcast on FM band. We have a low-band TV broadcaster also set up, so people in the locality can see what we're doing, can listen to us and enjoy the projects and programs that we produce.
Mr Jarman says with his multimedia bin, he hopes to help young people change the direction of their lives.
If there's a path that I could take, then I'm sure there are paths that these youngsters can take, and so I don't write them off.
John Corlett, Southern Cross News.
Because like most things I do are either to make me or somebody else happy. Or makes me happy anyway. So on the top I had a heart and just like cheerful color. Yeah, it's really nice. See if I can find on it. Can you close it so I can hear it? Oh yeah, as well. Thanks.
Oh, nice.
Hey.
I need to find.
Thanks. Was your mom was your inspiration?
Yeah, I'm not an artist,
So I painted
If honor comes in on.
but on the inside I also wrote
She's
about
supposed to say that.
and
I'm just wondering if she comes in, what happens? Would it interrupt this? This is not with them. Because honor is probably trying to talk, right, when she can.
Should we start the
I'll try.
do I text her?
Well, I don't see her online at all.
You don't see her on the screen?
Thank you. Thank you guys for talking. No problem.
Yeah.
So far, I plugged it in, and then nothing else is happening.
Ooh, nice. But you know what? You can fix it when you use it next time. Oh, you were gonna leave it?
We're waiting for.
I know, I guess you could even it out, but then you dangerous territory. Constantly like until the last thread.
That's my original, like, part of it, but.
Wait, can you turn this down?
That's him.
No, okay, all right. I didn't hear you. Can you say that again?
No, I was saying that I found a part of the file that I think we need. So I'm going to share my screen.
All right, thank you. All right, guys. So Rohan's presentation, getting queued up here. Okay. We're going to start.
I'm not just going to do a presentation. I just wanted to share this passage with page 3.
No, not yet. No.
I have a bunch of things going on. So. The other major project is this one, which I want to today invite all of you to participate in. This is the cover of it's a part of a cover. I couldn't find the other piece. It's a painting. It sort of encapsulates the container project and Ice Street Lab, which most of you there, or many of you there, are familiar with. You were part of it from the inception. So what I'm doing with this is chronicling his work and his life. And what I want to ask everybody to do today is just to write a little note before you leave. Just write a note of, what he meant to you or what you learned. I mean, just write something, anything. It could be just a thought. It could be a recollection. And your name, and as much information as you want to put. I'm going to put everything that anybody who we can find that had contact with him in this book. So if you want a paragraph, you want a line, I'm going to add all of this into the pages of the book.
Okay. So you want us to write and then send it to you?
Well, if you can collect it there, tell me, then I'll just, in other words, everybody doesn't have to write. And it doesn't have to be something that you type. It could be handwritten, it could be a painting, it could be anything that you want to contribute. Okay. But I want to put it all in the book.
Okay.
So Rohan, can you send us what you just said written down in an email with where you want us to send it to? Like,
good idea.
Sure.
That'd be great. Yeah, afterwards. Is that how you want to do it?
It doesn't matter. It's totally up to you. I'll give you my email, and I think if everybody's there and they can actually.
Oh, you want to do it now?
Yeah, or just coordinate with Camila would be great.
Okay.
That way, I would think rather than getting a whole bunch of different.
Yeah.
Yeah, I could just get one and then put them on But if people have something else to contribute, like a piece of artwork or something else, words to a song, whatever it is, then they could always send that file separately.
Okay, great.
Yeah, so I'm going to share my email on this thing.
Okay.
You guys look beautiful.
Thank you. He's talking about you guys.
Yeah. And the food doesn't look so bad either.
I know, eh? Food's yummy. Oh my gosh, the stick!
So this is a walking stick.
Yeah.
That when the four of us went to the container the first time, Camille, myself, Paul Mobbs, and Lisa Haskell, so Mike Steventon, Camille Turner, he bought this stick off a walking stick carving guy, and he had him cut it into 4 pieces, and each of us have a piece of this walking stick.
Awesome.
And I've got my piece right here.
So we should that would be great if we could take a picture of it and probably just record a little bit of what you just said. That'd be awesome, I think.
Yeah.
Does he know about the mapping Mervin site?
Rohan, do you know about our Mapping Mervin website?
I do. I think the last time I went on it was the last time we were supposed to meet.
Yeah.
I haven't gone back since.
Okay. I just wanted to make sure you knew it's there.
I just shared my email on there.
Oh. This is.
Oh, somebody.
Is it on there?
Sonia is calling.
Oh, Sonia's calling. Oh, okay. How do I get him? Where do I don't really see how to. Okay, Rohan. Thank you so much for sharing with us.
A pleasure.
Okay, we gotta get that.
It's
How do
so
we get
nice
that email
to.
off of there somehow?
I have his email.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Is that the
I
one
have
you
your
have?
email. Yeah. All right. I think we have to go now because we're going to go to Jamaica to pick up the next person. But
Thanks
it was so
much,
lovely.
Thanks for joining us, Rohan.
Bye.
Thanks a lot. Bye.
Okay. All right. So
you're gonna pull up.
should it be sorry. Was it Sonia that was calling?
Yeah, it was Sonia that was
Oh
calling.
boy. Okay.
Hi. Sure. I think this might be as good a time as any. Somewhere where there's light.
Okay, the party's just gotten better. There's a huge thing of chicken over here for anybody who wants it.
That's what I thought. Okay, Sonia's going high. All right. Should I call? I'm gonna ask. Should I call you there?
Strong, thoughtful, engaged, inspired.
And what about the shipping container and the mobile media lab? I'm sorry about that. What made you want to pursue working with Mervin when you went to Jamaica?
Well, it's a slightly long but interesting, I think, story. I lived in London, England for a while, and while I was there, I had this really great job.
It comes on there too?
Teaching people how to do
It comes on there too?
My mother was given 2 years to live, so I had to go back to Canada. And while I was in Canada, a friend of mine was running the program that I was running, and then Mervin came along, did the program, and my friend guy, he was telling me
Hey, Sonia.
so the guy who took over the job for me, he said, "Oh, you gotta meet this Mervin guy.
Hello.
Really
Oh, geez.
And Mervin is
Hey,
it's Jim. Hi,
Sonia.
Sonia.
We
can't see
And
you.
then, just by chance, Mervin
There.
Where's Oscar? Where's the
I don't know. Hi.
Is your camera on, Sonia?
They found out that they both knew me, And so then the circle was closed, and it was like, yeah, we have to work together. So I knew it was going to be good. And then when I went there,
Can you turn that up a bit more?
It was really fabulous.
Turn that up.
Working with all kinds of people, building a lab, having it all set up to do media stuff across.
Sonia,
One more question about Mervin.
can you hear us?
What characteristics about Mervin?
Okay, I can't hear
make him so
Sonia.
passionate
I think I'm gonna just take this out so I can hear her.
Trying to uplift youth.
Okay. All right, I can hear you, but I can't see you.
Why was he? Because he came from a place where he felt like he was nothing, and then he managed to find a way to get above nothing, and he felt that if he could do that, he could inspire them, and he was right. He did. And he had, but there was more to it than that. Like, it wasn't just the idea, it was also the execution. Like, he actually had a way with people, he was comfortable with people, and also he had respect from the kids in the street because he had been there, and so he represented something that they looked up to, and not just some authority figure telling them, hey, get your shit together. All right.
Oh, thanks.
We're streaming a water bottle. Yeah. I knew that was going to happen. No. No? I just need something.
Yeah, like, we should like all get that.
So if you're in there.
I kept hearing about basketball players saying history.
Well, yeah. One, it's not too tall people. But it's just tall people were dropped up.
Claire and I, we were going to go to Third Line and hang out there. We wouldn't want to come in and like the lights of the Toronto sign.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
The Phillips Square.
Yeah, that's good.
But that would be a good place to hang out.
I don't think we can get picture with that one.
Yeah.
Honor, what would be easier is if both of you were on the same account.
Well, no. Like, if they're in different places, they can't even do that. So.
No, they're not. They're sitting side by side. They just each side can different. So I'm going to drop one of you and the two of you. Is that Sonia? I'm not even sure how.
Oh, it's too late because I'm not in real time. So you're there. Nothing you can do about it. You were already there. You were already there, Martha. Look.
You know what? Why don't we just do another call? Like both of you guys hang up and do another call? Or one of you hang up?
Yeah, she went to Central Neighborhood House. I knew her when she was like 8. Yeah, long time, because I worked there for 8 years. Do you remember me? You were little. Yeah, it's that thing, right? Where you do that to, now I'm old enough to do that to people. To be like, I see you. He was like a baby. He was like 2 maybe, but not something. I know, eh? And are you graduating yet? Yeah. This year. Do you know what you're going to do? Really? Yeah. Where did you apply? Or how do you apply? North Carolina. You must be finding out soon. We can see you guys.
Making a council.
I depends on their sex for my master's.
Yeah, that's
Basically, Hi.
We're sort of 9 projects in one. So one of these sort of squares.
Okay, let me see if I can get something to show
There's a way of telling the story. And anyone who takes What's amazing is it's really comfortable.
Hi, Jen.
Hi. Oh, there. Hello. Hi, Sonia.
Hey, Jen.
Long time. Nice to see you.
Telling me. It's been a very long time. What do you want, sister? They only want to hear us. They want to see us. Is that better? We put a light. We put more light. Can you see us?
Oh, that must be from a couple of minutes ago.
Sonia or Honor, if you were to close the drapes behind you, the picture would be a lot better. Are you able to do that?
What we could do is move this, right? If I take this out, what will happen? So she doesn't want that, so we'll put this. Let's go over here. Let's go over here, Sonia. Alright, is this better?
Great, thank you very much. It's much better.
Here we are.
Yeah, that's better.
Okay, Honor. So we're gonna do like a couple of little things before you guys speak. And so I'm hoping that you can stay with us and we can do this and then we can hear from you. Is that okay?
That's fine.
Yeah, it's all right? Okay.
And you can hear us all
Great,
right?
thank you very much. It's much better.
Okay, because we have a performer that's going to perform.
Camille.
Yes.
When you come back to us, what is it you want us to do?
Oh, we just want to hear from you just about your relationship with Mervin, just what he meant to you, and whatever it is you want to say about Mervin. So I'm hoping that you can welcome. Stay with us. But first we have a performance. Is that okay? And I'm gonna say a few words. All right. But we're so excited that you're here with us.
Are we getting it so
Okay,
can
we
they
have a
see us? Like,
performer
where do we need
that's
to be
going
for
to
you
perform.
talking and stuff?
Yes.
When you come
Hang on a second.
when you come back to us, what is it you want us to do?
Oh, we just want to hear from you just about your relationship with Mervin, just what he meant to you, and whatever it is you want to say.
Okay, you can see now. See this little picture in the corner?
But first we have a right about here.
We're getting
I'm gonna say a few words.
We could steal that
But
one.
we're so excited that you're here with us. No, this is fine. We have a performer right here.
Okay.
Do we get better scenes
You have to be.
You can see now. See this little picture in the
Yeah, let's go. Is that going to get without that? Like a candle, we put some around. What's it?
Yeah, it's me. Oh, yeah.
That's great.
You need to hold it high. Otherwise, it's ugly.
Don't pick that away, we'll feed back.
Okay, my job is not my job.
Does this make any sense?
No, we could do is just turn the lights on.
Because right now,
Yeah, let's do that.
That would probably work. Yeah, that's going to be fun.
Hey, Honor. So we just got a little presentation and then we're going to go to.
okay, no problem.
Huh?
Okay.
The performance.
Mike, is there a way to move the camera so that I don't...
The laptop is the camera.
The laptop is the camera.
So we have to move the whole laptop.
Getting a lot
okay.
of feedback.
I just don't know how to see feedback.
There's too many different ways to look.
You guys talk to the room with that, okay?
Okay.
Okay.
Wait, there might be another way.
No,
This camera.
Oh, yeah.
So we just got to look at
Here. Yeah, that makes more sense.
Anna, can you see what's going on?
We can see, but we are getting a feedback.
Oh, you're getting feedback. They're getting feedback.
Getting some kind of feedback, and I don't know
Yeah,
why.
I know. Sorry. We've got this on camera, and then we're projecting you, and there's a delay. So that's why there's feedback. Maybe we can just take that off?
No, I have to turn one of these audios off, but it's hard to figure out which one.
We're trying to deal with Is that better?
Jennifer, have a look at the screen and you'll see what the camera's doing.
All right. So the performers are going to be right here. Jennifer, can you see her? Okay, perfect. That's what I'm doing. Oh, he's helping out this way camera so that I can.
There's like a big crowd. I don't want to put my back to my crowd. Yeah, that's awesome. That's it. That's it. Okay. Yay!
Are you okay with hearing? Can you hear us? Oh, very nice.
We got it.
The right one. Okay.
Release.
Come to me.
You?
Yeah. Okay. She hasn't started talking yet. Just gonna sneak by you. Hi. Okay, we're ready? Okay, I think we have a critical mass here. Yeah, it's beautiful. Okay. The 9-9, right. Okay, so welcome everybody. I think I'm ready to start. Yes, thank you all for coming to Mervin Jarman's. So as you can see, we have a whole bunch of different things happening here. We have a TV show being produced as we speak. We are talking to some friends in Jamaica. Hello, everybody in Jamaica. And we have you here to join us as well. We know that some of you in the room knew Mervin very well, and that some of you have, some of you are friends and family, some of you are artists or community organizers who have a connection to wanting to know about Mervin. So thank you all for coming. When we knew Mervin, as you know, he did media projects around the world, particularly with youth. And everywhere he went, he was always bringing a youth with him or bringing people with him to have them be able to tell stuff from their own experiences. So if he traveled to Toronto to a conference, he'd bring a couple people with him wherever he went. And so in the spirit of that, I have a young woman named Amira who's going to start our just our little bit of presentations here with some spoken word. I have heard her perform before. She's amazing. She lives in Moss Park, which is not far from here. And without further ado, Amira!
So I will be reciting two very short poems. Forgive me in advance because I'm going to be reciting off my phone. Okay, so here it goes. Lungs filled with oxygen being turned into carbon dioxide, with airwaves to life we call life, but it's just a broken society. A society filled with air that travels back into the lungs, and with one breath in, a breath painted with self-hatred, slits in the wrist and suicide notes. But then again, it's oxygen being turned into carbon dioxide, right? I can't breathe. When our airways slowly begin to fade into memories, it becomes like an airway with no way out. Strangled around my neck, unable to let the breath sink in with tranquilities. The memories seem to stick with me. I can't breathe. That was my prosecution, substitution of a misillusion. When your heart is gold and your surroundings are vile, may I say I'm a walking stereotype. When a type becomes my second name, stamped on my forehead, and I am all that they blame, but I pity their ignorance. It's like their eyes are sealed shut, making their heart a blindness, and when our words of hatred are bounded, it leaves us with a bad ending of an unfinished story. May I be the storyteller for a moment. You know my name, not my story. It can't always be the hardcover books being picked off the shelf. Thank you.
Wow, thank you, Amira. Powerful. So I'm going to say a little bit about Mervin. And yeah, I think I'm going to read this actually. Am I standing in the right place? Okay.
Is that your good side?
It's easier than moving the camera.
All right. Can you hear Honor and Sonia?
Wait 10 seconds and they'll answer you.
Yeah. I know. I hope that they're able to hear us. I don't know. Okay.
We can't hear them, but they can hear us right now. Because otherwise we get feedback.
Right. Okay. All right. So yeah. So I'm just going to tell you the story of how I met Mervin and what what it was like being around him and the impact he had on my life. So I first met Mervin at MIT in Boston in 2001. It was a conference called Race in Digital Space. So at the time, I was a new practitioner. I did electronic media art, and I was hanging out at places like the McLuhan Center at U of T and Interaccess Media Arts Center. And these spaces were very white and very male. So when I heard about the Race in Digital Space Conference, I was really excited. I had to go. So I arrived at MIT and I found myself surrounded by people who looked like me. And they were at the forefront of digital media, and I was just like, oh my God, I felt like hugging everybody. But when the conference began, one by one, they got up to the podium and they started speaking, and I realized that I couldn't understand a word they were saying. They were speaking in this coded academic language that really shut me out. And I felt, I really felt shut out of a conversation that I was supposed to be a part of. This was the story of my life. And so after the talks, there were these workshops that you could sign up for. And I saw one by a group called Mongrel. And I'd heard about Mongrel. They had this reputation for being troublemakers, turning the world upside down, inverting the status quo, and I wanted to check that out. So I sat there, and all these people were, streaming into the room, and the presenters weren't there yet. So we're sitting there, we're just waiting, and what's going to happen? And all of a sudden, Mervin walks in, and Richard, his colleague, he's from Trinidad. And these guys were just like shouting to each other. There's just this call and response going on. The air in the place just was just mashed up, man. It was just amazing, just all the energy that was happening. And it just changed the whole atmosphere of the place. And so they were like a breath of fresh air for me. They were speaking in my language, something that I could understand. And they were amazing. And Mervin was the very first digital media practitioner that I ever met who was Jamaican. So I totally made a beeline for Mervin as soon as the presentation was over. And we became friends ever since. So when I came back to Toronto, I was inspired to start something new in my life. I wanted to work with communities the way Mervin was. And so Kathleen Perry-Adams, who was the administrator of Interaccess at the time, she and I wrote a grant together. I started a curatorial residency at Interaccess, which was the beginning of so many things. That's how I met Jen. And I started working with all kinds of really amazing groups. Adonis, Regent Park Focus, this is how it all happened. So one of the first things I did was to invite Mervin to come to Toronto and to work with Regent Park Focus. And that was the very first thing I ever facilitated. So he basically was my mentor. He showed me the ropes. And so that was a pretty amazing gift. And and Mervin was such an unusual person. He was not just a digital media artist. He lived what he spoke about. His life was transformed by it. He was an educator, an activist, an inventor. He dedicated his life to creating platforms and processes that enabled people who are oppressed to not just become consumers of this media, but to become producers. And I'll never forget the first time he came into this community. I mean, Mervin was large and in charge. Like, that's the kind of vibe he gave out. Even if you didn't know him, you knew you had to know him, you know? And over the years, Mervin and I worked together in all kinds of places: Toronto, Banff, Edmonton, the UK, Jamaica, Australia. And he was always looking out for people, you know? He always looked out for me. He always tried to include me in whatever he was doing. And I always appreciated that. And as we got to know each other, he shared more and more of his story. He talked about, you know, his early life. You know, his mother died when he was quite young. And so he had to fend for himself. And basically, he was running through the streets, and he knew the streets like the back of his hand. But then something extraordinary happened. Well, and one thing I wanted to say about that too was that the place that he lived in, where he grew up, is called Palmer's Cross. And it's a community that everyone says nothing good can come out of Cross. He was always told that he was not going to amount to anything. And so, but something extraordinary happened. He had the opportunity to go to the UK, where he attended a program for underemployed young people. He studied film and multimedia production, and he discovered the world of digital activism. So I don't know if you know that term, activism. The first hack he did was he created this website. It looked like the UK government website. It looked exactly like it. He had the same keywords and everything. So anyone trying to find that website could find his. But the content was completely different. He put his own content on there. And at the time, there was this case going on where there was a Jamaican woman who basically was shot by, she was an illegal immigrant in the UK. She was shot by the police. And so that's what he put on that website. And so for him, it was about the power of art to make things visible. And also, he said, you know, in any other circumstances, doing something like this would probably land him in jail. But it was art, and he was allowed to speak. So having this voice was really important. And being able to give other people that voice became, you know, really the center of what he was trying to do. So one of his great inventions, I said he was an inventor. One of his great inventions was the container project. So it's a computer lab, and it's housed in this shipping container in this little village in Jamaica, Palmer's Cross, right? So what he did is he got people to donate computers, businesses donating defunct computers. These things didn't even work. But he put them in this container, shipped them to Jamaica, to his land, and people are so, that is one thing about Jamaica, people are so resourceful. Never mind, they didn't have computers there. They figured out how these things worked. They would take the good bits and basically rebuild the computers. So they had this lab, and it was a pretty amazing lab. And UNESCO came on board and basically funded the project. So it was really great to be a part of that. It was, for me, a really wonderful experience going to the Buddha of that whole thing. So Paul Mobbs, Lisa Haskell, and Mike Stevenson, who's here with me, were a part of that Buddha workshop, which was amazing, and so much energy and excitement going on. And then later on, I went back with Jen and Jim, and you know, we've had so many amazing experiences. Another of his inventions was the ice street lab. That was the latest invention that he had. And it was basically a bin. You know those plastic garbage bins, these wee bins? Yeah, so he took one of those and he created something amazing. He was always told that he was garbage. So he's like, let me show you what garbage can do. So this was the symbol. This is the symbol that he used. He basically retrofitted this garbage can into a media lab, a mobile media lab. So you can roll up to any street corner, you know, set up shop, and you've got a fully functioning recording studio right there on the street corner. So it was a pretty amazing invention, and it took him all over Jamaica, the UK, and for the last 5 years of his life, he did a lot of work in Australia. So yeah, I feel like I need to wrap up a little bit here. Oh yeah, so one of the wonderful things that happened was Mervin was recognized internationally through the prestigious Stockholm Challenge Award in 2008 in the community education category. And in the same year, he was recognized by the Jamaican government and awarded a badge of honor for meritorious services. And these prizes were really well earned by Mervin. He was an incredible person, but he was so generous too. Like for him, this prize was won by the community, you know? And so he really shared everything that he got. All the accolades were really something that he shared with the community. So yeah, two things I'm gonna leave you with. These are two things that I always think about when I think about Mervin. One was a dream that he told me about. In this dream, he had died, and he said, you know, he was looking down, and all his loved ones are just crying and crying, and he was looking down on them, going, oh, what's the matter? I'm here. Can't you see me? I'm here. You know, and but everybody just kept on crying, and they couldn't see him. The second one is a movie, and I don't know if you guys have ever seen Brother from Another Planet.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So Mervin flew a lot. Like in the last 5 years of his life, he was living between Australia, Jamaica, the UK, stops in Toronto, and Florida as well. And so he was always in the air. So he said he felt like that character from Brother from Another Planet. When someone asked him where he lived, he'd say, so yeah, so I always think about Mervin every time I look up. And yeah, he was someone who was larger than life, and he touched the clouds when he walked, you know. He was that kind of a guy. But he was always very grounded too, and he always referred to himself as Mervin. Simply Mervin. Never change, nor rearrange. Walk road Mervin. All right. And so we have some special guests here from Jamaica. Sonia Mills and Honor Ford Smith. And I know they can't hear us yet because there's a delay. So just hang on for 8 seconds and then they will hear what we just said.
I'm going to change all the volumes.